Boom. Mandy is on. Hey, Mandy, what's up, girl?
Hi.
Sometimes, I don't know why, I've been using Skype and Zoom, and sometimes Skype will just jump to where it's smaller. So I'm going to have to keep an eye. If I keep looking over to the right, everybody, my apologies. But I have to keep making sure that Mandy hasn't gotten small on me over there. Hi, Mandy
A
Fenton.
little tiny.
Yeah, little tiny. Hi, Mandy Fenton. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Awesome. It was so cool. I was just thinking about it the other day. We have usually we have breast cancer survivors on the show, but I thought it was really important to give the view of someone whose mother has gone through breast cancer and just kind of get some of that backstory, and we could tell everybody how we met and all of that stuff. Because, or when I remember we met and when you remember we met, and all that,
Yeah, because that's two different
two different
things.
things. But let's first start out. It was several years ago that your mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. Why don't you take everybody through how that all went down?
Yeah, it was a long time ago, actually, because she passed away in 2000, in July of 2000. But in 1998, she found a lump, but she didn't tell anybody what it was. She went to the doctor, and what she told us was that she had an infected lymph gland and that they were putting her on some antibiotics and everything was going to be fine. There was nothing to worry about. It was uh, just a little infected lymph gland. There wasn't anything to worry about. So we said, okay. Um, you know, and then it was probably about, I mean, she never really spoke about it anymore. We, made sure, okay, hey, you're feeling okay. Yeah, I feel great. And then it was probably a couple of months later that she let us know that, in fact, she had breast cancer. And the only reason why she was telling us, now she didn't say the only reason why I'm telling you this, but what she told us was that she was going to have a port put in. So there wasn't going to be any real way to uh, disguise or hide that. So um, because she didn't want us to know or to worry about her. When she told us that she had breast cancer, it was she had a little lump, and that they were going to do a lumpectomy, and she would do some chemotherapy as just to just to make sure, as a prevent, I wouldn't say preventative, but as part of the treatment, um, that everything was going to be just fine. There was nothing to worry about, all of that. So she did do that. She had the port. She went through chemotherapy.
And
I can't tell you.
when she went through chemo,
Go
did
ahead.
you know that she was having chemo? Like, did she invite you to go with her, or did she go by herself, or how did?
Oh,
And you're back. You're back. Um,
oh,
so
and we're
and
back.
we're back. So whenever
This
she
is a
went through chemo, did she tell you that she was going? Like, did she invite you to go with her, or did she go by herself? Do you recall?
no. My then stepfather went with her. We did not. She had another friend that went with her. I never went to any of her treatments. Um, she would always go and then say, "Oh, I went, and I know you're busy," and things like that. I think my sister might have gone. I can't swear to that, but anyway, so she lost her hair immediately. Um, so I remember that she did shave her head, but she had. I remember her talking about that she had red devil. At the time, I didn't know what that was, but I knew that
Yeah.
it it was
It did, yeah, it
intense.
didn't sound good. Anything called Red Devil doesn't sound good. And for those watching right now, Red Devil is a common chemotherapy for breast cancer patients. It's actually called adriamycin. It
Mhm.
That's the red one, and then it's usually given with a thing called Cytoxin. The red
Mm-hmm.
devil is given through a large syringe into a tube that goes into your port, usually. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely not fun. How old were you when all this was happening, Mandy?
I was 32 when this was happening. I was the youngest, and I had uh, I had three other siblings. I had two brothers and a sister, and they're all older than me. So it wasn't like we were small children or anything like that, that she was trying to, protect. I guess, she just didn't want us to worry about her. And that's pretty much how she was. She wasn't ever sick, really. Um, I mean, she was probably sick when she was little, but as a grown woman, I don't really ever remember her being sick other than maybe having a cold or here or there. So to have, this happen, one thing I did want to point out, which is something we haven't ever done at the time. So my mom was adopted, so we didn't have any medical history on her. So I don't know if there was a family history of anything or not. This just kind of came, out of nowhere, and it was, not going to be a big deal in her mind, and we were going to get through it. And her attitude was very strong, very, very. We're just going to push through. This is going to happen, and we're going to be just fine. And we didn't have any reason to think otherwise. And so then she went through, I don't know, it was probably several months. I couldn't tell you how many rounds of chemotherapy that she went through. She did lose her hair and all of that. There was a lot of side effects that happened to her that, of course, you've talked about before with other, and I've heard other survivors talk about, all the little things that happen that nobody talks about that tells you are a side effect of breast cancer or chemotherapy. So in her situation, um, she the the bone in her teeth became loose. So the bone in her jaw started. I don't want to say disintegrating, but it got very soft,
Oh
and so
gosh.
she was having a lot of
Yeah.
problems with her teeth.
Wow, and
So,
just to chime in with that, that is a common side effect is problems with your mouth, and the way they described it
mhm,
to me is that the chemotherapy attacks fast growing cells, and fast growing
yeah,
cells are located your hair, your fingernails, your skin, your mouth, your digestive
hmm,
system. So that's why all of those things are adversely affected.
yeah,
Myself, I think I had sores in my mouth, but I've heard of people having this problem. That's
hmm,
so scary. So did her teeth fall out, or
hmm.
how many teeth did she lose?
Quite a few, um, quite a few. And a lot of it was in the back mostly, not so much in the front, but in the back. So she would have to eat like things that were soft and, kind of more so in the front and whatnot. So she began losing a lot of weight because she just wasn't eating very much, really. I mean, she would have soup and she would have, things that were soft, mashed potatoes, things like that, macaroni and cheese, things that she wouldn't have to really bite down on. And so she began losing quite a bit of weight. And so again, oh, this is, we knew that that was happening. Um, you know, we didn't know the extent of, how much she was losing, because again, she was losing them in the back. So we didn't see them as much. Um, so, that was just another side effect. She had a lot of nausea. She had, um, you're right, things like happened with her fingernails.
Well, and
She lost
as
all
as a woman, it's like the worst stuff to,
of,
when you think about trying to look pretty and all that stuff, you're thinking about your teeth and your
yeah,
hair and your fingernails. Like those are things that women really
yeah,
love to do themselves up with. So that had to be so
yeah.
hard. I want to make sure along the way, and
Hmm.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but there's a lot of comments because you're super popular. And so,
Oh,
yeah,
well, good.
I don't want to miss that. There's a question here from Chris. She asks, Mandy, you look amazing. First of all, I love your hair, she says.
Oh,
And
thank
I agree
you.
with her.
Thank you.
Question is the tattoo on your arm for your mom, and is your mom the reason that you volunteer for breast cancer can stick it?
Yeah. So who was asking that?
Yes.
Chris? Yes. Okay. So I have actually two breast cancer tattoos. This tattoo that I have is for my mother. And I've had it for probably about 15 years now. I did get that for her. And yes, she's also the reason that I volunteer for Breast Cancer Can Stick It. One thing that I also was going to mention is my paternal grandmother on my father's side was a breast cancer survivor. And she was diagnosed with breast cancer. I don't know. I was a little girl. I know she was quite older, probably in her early 70s. And she did do a unilateral mastectomy. I remember going to the hospital when I was a little girl and seeing her, and she lived well into her 90s. Um, and so I like to think that that's for both of them. And but yes, my mother is definitely the reason why I volunteer for Breast Cancer Can Stick It. There's actually a couple of reasons that I volunteer for Breast Cancer Can Stick It. So really quickly, I'll try to recap. So my brother happened to be a drummer, and my brother passed away in 2013. He had heart problems and he passed away in his sleep, and he and I were very close to each other. And that's also something that's been I've struggled with for a long time. And so having a drummer, a brother who was a drummer, and my mom who was a breast cancer survivor, and I met April through a mutual friend of ours, and it just kind of meshed together like that. So it was just kind of has to do with drumming and my mom having breast cancer, and it was kind of exactly what I needed at that moment. Because even though my mom passed away in 2000, the first time I met April, I actually looked this up today, April. It was August 27th of 2011 is
Oh my
when the
gosh,
first time that you and I
that
met.
wow, that was like gosh, that was just a few months after I finished chemo, actually. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
crazy.
Your hair was
Yeah,
really
yeah.
short. Was
Uh-huh.
really short, and we met through Troy Thibodeau, who's a lot of people may know Troy. He's a guitarist on 49th Vibration, which is a band that you're in, and I've known Troy since, oh my gosh, late 90s, I guess. And he and I used to work together. He knew that my mom had passed away from breast cancer, and invited me out to an event. And I went and I met you, and yeah, your hair was very short. And I remember I was sitting at a table. I had already had my tattoo, and you came and you sat down. We were never formally introduced, but you came and you sat down at a table, and you asked me actually about the tattoo. I think I complimented you on your playing, and told you that I enjoyed the show, and you asked me about my tattoo, and I started talking about my mom, and I couldn't even get through the story without just bawling, even still. So that was 11 years. And you were very sweet. You gave me your card, and you said, if you need anything, let me know. And I said, would it be weird to send you a friend request on Facebook? And you said, absolutely not. And I did. And I sent you a Facebook message that evening. And that's how I know, because I went all the way
That's
back. So I knew
so
it was August
crazy. That's
27th.
so crazy. And it's like,
Mhm.
you said a second ago that breast cancer can stick it was exactly what you needed. Well, you were exactly what breast cancer can stick it needed too. I'm telling you right now, and it's been cool because I mean, it's hard to remember a time when we weren't friends at this point, because it just seems
Yeah,
like I don't know. You just seem like you've been, yeah, you
forever.
just seem like you've been such a big part of my life. Let me just make sure I'm not missing any other questions here, Mandy. I did see that Deborah wanted to give you a shout out. She said one of the hardest working volunteers for breast cancer can stick it. She's beautiful inside and out. Amazing team player, problem solver. Just wanted to give a lot of virtual hugs to that special woman. She is a social media wizard, friend, mom, and wife. A magic woman, she says.
Wow.
And
Thank
Bill, your
you.
husband, is in the house, and he says many people don't know it, but my
Yes.
mom passed away 10 years to the day before
Hmm.
Mandy's mom from cancer, also, which is crazy. And yeah, it's
Yep.
hard to believe. I was gonna try to find one of the pictures from that event, and maybe on another break I can find one from that Red Rocks
Oh,
event,
yeah, that
so
would
I
be
can show
fun.
what I looked like back then. Because yeah, my hair was very short because it had only been probably four
Mhm.
or 5 months. But I know I got you a little off topic
Yeah.
there. We were still, talking about your mom and that
Oh, yeah,
she had
yeah.
lost her teeth and her fingernails were starting to
Mhm.
have issues and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So I want to be sure we hear that whole story. So take us from there.
Okay. So yeah, you're 100% right. As a woman, my mom was, uh, you lose your hair, she wasn't particularly, upset about that, but the teeth and her nails and skin and things like that, things that are an outward appearance where people saw, I know that it did bother her a lot, but um, she didn't portray that to people. I mean, like, she didn't complain. She didn't, there was no, feel sorry for me. There was no nothing. She got up every day and she did, I always say she fought as hard as she could for as long as she could. And, her voice was never weak. Um, or anything. You'd call her on the phone and she was energetic and she was happy and she was always smiling and she just really, really enjoyed life and loved people and people that knew her loved her as well. There was four of us kids and she was a mom to every single one of our friends and kids, we were always had people over and my mom was just the greatest and so it was no surprise to me that throughout this it was the same way. It was like, hey, I'm going to do this and I'm going to be just fine. And so as things progressed, like I said, there was the weight loss. She would tell us as much as she wanted us to know about it, which was never anything really bad. She didn't tell us that what had actually happened is that the cancer had spread throughout a lot of organs in her body. And so it had gone into her bones and into her spine and then into her brain. And I remember my stepfather was going out of town. His mother was sick and he had to go out of town and he didn't want my mom to be at home by herself. So he had asked the my sister, brother, and I to check in on her. And so my brother went over the first night, and he called my sister and I and said, "She's not doing very well. I can't get her to eat anything." And my brother's an amazing cook. My oldest brother is an amazing cook, and he's like, I can't get her to eat very much. She doesn't want to eat, and she's very kind of belligerent, which was not like her at all. And so my sister went over the next day, um, and she called me, and I went over there. She was experiencing the same thing, and so when I saw her, I remember thinking, we're gonna call the doctor. So my mom didn't want to do that. Um, and I said, no, we need to call. So we called the doctor, and the doctor said, take her to the emergency room. And we took her to the emergency room, and that was June 16th of 2000. And so I remember being in the room. My sister and I were there, and a doctor came in, and she said something about a living will. I don't remember exactly. She made a comment about how my mom had lost 8 pounds in the week. And at this point, she was about 119 pounds. And she had made a comment to her about her having lost weight. And my mom said something about, well, I'm eating, and she mentioned something about a living will. And I remember looking at my sister thinking, what is she talking about? And when the doctor walked out of the room, I went out into the hallway and I said, listen, I'm not sure what you mean by that, what's happening. And she said that she couldn't tell me anything. Uh, unless my mom gave her permission for her to tell us something. And so I said, well, then let's go in and get her permission. And so I walked back into the room with her, and I remember the doctor saying, that your daughters are concerned about your health. I can't tell them anything unless you give us the okay. And I remember looking at her, and her face just dropped. And she said, okay, go ahead and tell them. And what she told us was that my mom had, the cancer had spread to her brain, her spine, and various parts of her body, and that she had 6 months. Now, I remember, I think my body just went limp. um, because I wasn't expecting that answer. So uh, it was June 16th, which happened to actually be my father's birthday, and he had passed in 1980. But um, she said she has about 6 months, maybe. At this point, they were going to put her in hospice, and that we needed to start making arrangements. And I couldn't believe it. I mean, my sister and I couldn't believe it, because thinking that, she I wouldn't say okay. We knew that there was something going on. She just wouldn't tell us what it was. And so we went home, and they set her up in her living room. And I remember they gave us a book about, it was kind of like a death book. And it was basically kind of the steps that, the steps towards death, basically,
Just kind of
that
like
hospice give him.
that, like
Hmm.
kind of prepare you for what's going to happen next, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I kind of can't imagine, Mandy.
Yeah. It's just a little book, and we sat down and we read it. And so we knew, kind of, these are kind of things that to look for. We called some friends of hers that she wanted to see, and they set up the hospital bed in her living room. And I stayed there. I was working at a job, and I told my boss, and my boss said, do what you have to do, do what you want to do. If you feel like coming into work, come into work. If you don't, and don't worry about it. And that's kind of what I did. And I would stay at my mom's. My sister would stay there. I would try to go to work and think, okay, I can work a little bit, and I couldn't work. I couldn't function in that way. I didn't want to be there. So I would go to her house and stay, and it kind of just started happening the way that, the book happened, because it was in her brain. So eventually what happened is she lost her ability to speak and communicate. Um, she passed away 3 weeks later after we got that news.
Wow.
So it was
Yeah,
very
so
fast.
they had told you 6 months and it ended up being just 3 weeks. Oh my gosh. That's hardly
It ended up being three
I
weeks.
mean,
And
not
I
that
think,
time would have necessarily helped you deal with that, but man, what a just awful. Yeah.
yeah, I almost feel like at that point, when she knew that we knew and the secret was out, she felt like she didn't, I don't want to say that she gave up or that she felt like she couldn't fight anymore, but it was kind of like that barrier was gone. There was not a front that she had to put on, I guess, if that makes
It makes
sense.
total sense. That
And
makes total sense. Yeah.
so that's kind of what I felt like. For the first few days, she would, had her appetite kind of came back. I remember, if she wanted to eat something, we would go and get it. And we had probably just a few days before she passed away, she was sitting up on the couch, probably a week before she passed away. She was sitting up on the couch, and she wanted KFC, and we went and got her some KFC,
I
and
bet, man.
and
I
she
mean, just
ate.
like whatever.
She
Yeah.
Yeah, she ate, and which is probably the most she'd eaten in a long time. And we had several friends of hers that came to visit her and whatnot. And one of her best friends, who happens to be my godmother, had been in a car accident. They'd been friends for, gosh, 50 years. and she had been in a car accident and wasn't able to come up from Austin, and her daughter drove her up. And at that point, by the time they got there, my mom was basically kind of in a coma like situation. She was pretty heavily medicated because she was in a lot of pain. And so one day she could nod yes if you talked to her, and another day she couldn't do that. She would nod no. Then she got to where she could just only squeeze your hand. Um, and then when my godmother came and her daughter, um, she was there and she stayed with my mom for the whole day. And they, she talked to her and my mom would respond. And, we were all there. And then the next morning, she left. My godmother, her name's Mary Lynn, she left. I had gone home to go take a shower and change, and I was going to come back over there. And that's when my mom passed away 20 minutes after they left.
Wow.
And so my sister called and told me that. So I wasn't there when it happened. I had just come home to take a shower and was going back over
Yeah.
there.
So
And,
what was like
that
from
was that was
the
that.
point at which she told you she had breast cancer to the point at which she died? How long was that?
About two
Yeah.
years.
Wow.
So what had happened is also too, that she had stopped doing the chemotherapy because it wasn't working. But that's not, again, what she told us. She had stopped it because it wasn't working, and it had basically metastasized, in other parts of her body. So that's what happened. And
Wow.
looking back now, people have asked me, would you have rather, known what was happening? And the answer is 100%
Yeah.
yes. I would have wanted to know more about what was happening, because she didn't talk about it. Even when you asked her, it was just, she didn't want to talk about any of the negativity, or the possibility that she wasn't going to make it. That was never, you never heard her say that. It was never, she was going to make it. And, so I remember the Christmas before, in 99, her hair started coming back in, and she was feeling better and whatnot. And then it just kind of went back downhill,
Wow.
and it went really
Yeah.
fast.
Crazy fast. Well, and I know we talked about this the other day that, everybody who goes through cancer of any kind, that you just have to deal with it how you can deal with it. There's no right or wrong way. And, but I do
No.
think it's important for people to hear your story, Mandy, to hear what it's like for a child of someone who went through breast cancer and not knowing and not being able to be there. And I my mom is much like your mom. I think, like, she doesn't like people to worry about her and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
so it's a hard that's a hard position to be in. I can't imagine what that was like for you, and I'm so sorry that
Yeah.
all that happened. I mean, I've known you for a long time, but you don't ever just we don't sit down and just have these like really deep conversations like this. And man, it's a lot.
Not
Yeah.
often. When we're traveling to and from Corpus on the weekends that never end,
Yes, that's a whole.
there's 8
We
hours in the
we're gonna have to
car.
have you back, and the sole focus is gonna be Corpus Christi follies, and that's it. And we're just gonna be like telling everybody all the crazy stuff that happens when we travel to Corpus Christi. And I
Yeah,
gotta,
because you can't
yeah, you
make it up.
can't. I gotta give a shout out to a few more people here, Mandy. And I know we're at the end of nearing the end of our time here,
Okay.
so let me go back a second. Make sure I get everybody's comments in here. Sheila says, "Much love to Mandy, co-worker turned into great friend."
Aw.
Uh,
Hi, Sheila.
Bill says, "Another quick fun fact: Mandy's mom and I shared the same birthday." Chris says,
That's true.
"Even if it wouldn't change the outcome, and I'm sorry for you, and I'm sorry for that. Would you want would you do differently with your mom then? What would you do differently with your mom then?" Oh, okay. She was just wondering if there's something that you would have done different?
Oh, probably lots of things. Yeah. I probably would have pushed harder to, to find out. I had to, I had to make peace with the fact that she handled it the way that she wanted to handle it, like it or not. I don't personally like how she handled it because, I felt, um, I don't say hurt by it because I understand why she did it, but it doesn't make it any easier. And I know that, just like you said, people have to handle it the way that they would handle it. I don't know if it would be different for me, God forbid if that happened. I would like to think I would be a little bit more forthcoming, but I had to respect the way that she did it. But I think I probably definitely would have just pushed harder for more information. Um, than I
Yeah, I
did,
mean,
and I didn't.
yeah.
I just, was like, "Okay, this is what,
Well,
she says, I trust
yeah,
her."
you had no reason
And,
to think any different. So
mm-mm,
there's really we really didn't have a chance to do anything differently than how
yeah.
you did it. Chip Ritter wants me to be
Yeah.
sure and tell you hello from Chip Ritter. Uh,
Oh, hey, Chip.
Courtney Woods is in the house. She's a breast cancer survivor and part of our Survivors
I
Rock,
know.
a breast cancer constituent community, our Facebook group,
I know.
and also your friend.
Courtney's actually my sister's
There you
daughter-in-law.
go. And she just commented though that the situation that you went through would be so hard. And Bill says, "I'm tearing up remembering all this. She was a great lady and super fun. We got along so well too. It was tough to actually hear the news from the doctor. Yes." And
Yeah.
Courtney says, "Tough woman, what a fighter." Randy says, "Thank you, Mandy, for sharing your story." And Mandy, I would love to have you come back sometime so we could talk a little bit more about this. I think this
Yeah.
is really cool, to hear this different side. We, like I said, we normally have breast cancer survivors on the show. We always will, of course, but it's nice to have
Yeah.
a viewpoint of the daughter of somebody. I did have one question for you. You mentioned
Mm,
that on your dad's side there was some breast cancer, as I recall, and
mhm.
then your mom had
Yeah.
breast cancer. And so, did you ever get any kind of genetic testing, or have you thought about doing that?
I have thought about doing it. I have not done any type of genetic testing. Um, but I'm definitely, especially now as I'm getting, a little older and whatnot. So not too much older, but a little bit.
Yeah.
I definitely
You
should
should
do it
talk
for
to an
sure.
organization and see if they have any ideas of where you could go.
Hmm. Gosh,
Gosh,
do you know any?
maybe. Yeah,
I'll Google
we'll hook you up
something.
with Dr. O and she'll get you right where you need to be. So we should do that. We should get
Okay.
you some genetic testing just so you could stay ahead of the curve on that one for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do get my mammograms every year, and I've been doing it since I was
Wow.
37.
Yeah,
So,
that's good. I'm
um,
glad. Yeah.
knock on wood,
Always good to stay ahead of
it's
it, and
okay.
you can practice what you
Mhm.
preach too, as you're a board member for breast cancer can stick it. And we didn't mention it, but Mandy is actually a actually our social media person, one of our social media people. And so she's normally the one kind of moderating this. So I'm trying to moderate it while she's my guest, which I suck at it compared to Mandy. But Mandy is awesome, and so most everything that you see coming from our breast cancer can stick at Facebook and Twitter accounts are Mandy. We also have
Mm,
Rue in the house and others working on our social media. So Mandy, man, you are a huge part of breast cancer can stick it. So blessed to have you on the crew and be a board member for all these years, and also just as a friend. I just love you, and I'm so glad that you got to share this
thank
with
you.
me. And we'll have to have you on again soon.
Yeah, please
Yeah,
do. I would love
yeah.
to. I probably, I'll run over my time, I'm sure, but I ramble a little bit
You're
and,
good. No, it's all very, very interesting, and really thankful that you were able to share it with us tonight, girl. So really, thanks
Yeah,
so much
you're
for being
welcome.
on the show
Thanks for having
tonight.
me.
And I'm gonna let you go. And if you could take over moderating now, I'm just kidding. I'll do it. I'll keep doing it tonight. You can get the night off. All right.
No, it's okay.
I have
Okay,
my link list. I'm ready. I'm ready.
you
I'm ready,
ready?
dude. I got this.
Okay. All right.
Girl,
I
have a
trust you.
great night. Thank you so much, Mandy. I love you, girl. Take
All
care.
right. Love
Bye, girl.
you. Bye.
All right, guys, that was Mandy Fenton. She's awesome, man. What a blessing to Breast Cancer Can Stick It, and to everyone watching tonight to be able to see her and hear straight from her what that was like going through breast cancer with her, actually her mom having breast cancer, and being there for her.